The major issue that we continue to be seized by on this side, of course, is our relationship with the US. Lots of news last week on how we are likely to accept, that a tariff-free deal with the US is highly unlikely. We're not expecting Donald Trump to jump all of his tariffs on us, despite Prime Minister Carney's move to slash levies on US imports in what was positioned as a bid to try and reset the relationship and reset the negotiations with the White House. Dominic LeBlanc, who is Canada's top trade
You
official with
see
the
that?
US.
He said that because he's French Canadian. He went LeBlanc. He did it properly. We'd have gone
Very
Dominic
good.
LeBlanc, but no, he did it properly. So that was him, like, it's like there's people who go on TV and they say, oh, yes, when I was in Paris or when I was in Barcelona, that's what he was doing. It's like,
He's
Anyway,
bringing
sorry,
a
Joseph.
little bit of class, you're bringing for us, Joseph.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Quebecois accent. Yeah.
Quebecois.
Well, he was out last week saying, or leading a delegation in Washington, hoping to reset the relationship, met with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, among other officials. But ultimately, we find ourselves without a deal. And I start to wonder if expectations have been appropriately managed by the Liberals on this.
Yeah, elbows down rather than elbows up, right? I mean, and we talked about this a lot. So this whole issue about, Canadians are up for the fight and all the rest of it, and, yada, yada, yada. It's nonsense, right? Because as much as we might all be up for the fight, it's a fight that can't be won because of the sheer difference in scale between the US and the Canadian economy. This economy here is about 80% reliant on the US. We've talked about a lot, and we predicted very early on, which is that, Canada, the Prime Minister Carney is going to have to go cap in hand. And he kind of had already started doing that, right? So was it the digital services tax, a few other things, the language has changed a bit. Whilst people might be up for the fight, the best solution is still, the best outcome for Canadians is still a resolution to this issue. But thinking we can just do the whole elbows up, everyone buy Canadian, which is a very nice thing to do. At the end of the day, this is going to have to be resolved probably by some quite painful gives from the Canadian side. And, it doesn't look like, there's much interest in the US in resolving this amicably very quickly.
Well, I think that's the real pain point there, more than what is the final sort of tariff regime we're dealing with. It's just the fact that we're still in this uncertain dynamic. We don't like some type of certainty with some number attached to it. I think right now would allow us to move on in some way, shape, or form. But I think the uncertainty is causing us more problems than what the final tariff regime looks like. How's this playing out on your side? I mean, when the UK had its, agreement or negotiate, I don't even know what we call it, but when it signed some paperwork in the White House, I was encouraged that it was possible, at least for some leaders, to strike up some kind of deal with Donald Trump. But I know that has since in the UK been criticized. It was probably not necessarily.
Although there was some data out. There was actually some data out this week saying that car sales from the UK to the US have kind of increased quite significantly since the deal. So I think that, it's still been viewed as a positive in the sense of at least we were able to get a deal, and Trump didn't seem to have the UK on his radar, right, as the same thing. But yeah, I don't know. How's a lot of the Canadian stuff, interestingly, got quite a bit of coverage, didn't it, of Donald Trump's wanting to take over Canada and it become the 51st state and all this nonsense. That did play quite a lot in the UK media, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And I think, it's just so sexy compared to our trade deals. You'll remember, Andrew, Liz Truss made quite a few trade deals during the last parliament, and there'll be a photograph and maybe some people will sign a piece of paper and we'll have a picture taken with the pen and the flag and everything else. But it just didn't cut through here in the same way as it does with those huge characters with Trump and Carney and that ongoing conversation. I think as well, after Brexit felt like the end of the conversation, unless you were really directly affected or you ran a business that exported or imported. For a lot of people, once we'd had the vote on, I think, 23rd of January 2020, that was kind of the end of that conversation in a way that's really different with this, because this is just blow by blow. It's ongoing. It's really interesting to see in the media for people. It's so tangible.
It's a soap opera, isn't it? That's the thing. Anything with Trump is just a soap opera. But it's also a soap opera you can't stop watching, right? I love watching him because I just can't wait to see what he's going to say next, which is...
What kind of ludicrous thing he's going to say next.
And then, but as we've said many times before, within lots of the ludicrousness, there is also like a grain of truth on lots of the stuff. And so, it's kind of just fascinating to watch.